Awareness, the final frontier. This is Awareness Explorers.
Welcome back, fellow explorers, to Awareness Explorers. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Robinson, and with my friend and co-host.
Brian Tom O'Connor.
I like saying that. It always makes me feel good. Well, Brian, we have a guest today, and as usual, one of us knows the guest really well. That one is you, and one of us met her about 3 minutes ago. So I have beginner's mind curiosity, but let me read a little bit about Beth Miller. She was born in Brooklyn, New York, and in a world where appearances were everything, she tended towards an inner world that she kept to herself. Then, after raising two sons, she went to graduate schools to study psychology. And after completing her degree, she built a satisfying and what she calls delicious career. Then she began to follow and study spiritual teachers, Adyashanti, David Hawkins, Mooji, and Jan Fraser. And after decades of devoted searching, she was guided by Jan Fraser and experienced a profound shift in consciousness at the age of 70. This realization allowed the inner and the outer world to melt into each other, and after decades of healing and opening to larger and larger states of consciousness, the search ended. Also note that she wrote a book called Awakening is Not for the Faint of Heart, which is largely about her experience with long COVID, which I plan to ask her about. Her website is bmillerphd.com. And Beth, welcome to Awareness Explorers.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's very, very nice to be here with both of you. Thank you.
Great. When I hear about people's transformations, the first question that kind of occurs to me is, what was different before and after, and was it pretty sudden or was it a little bit gradual?
Yeah. I'll start with the second. It was actually very gradual, and I'd have to say that for me, the decades I spent in therapy primed the soil
Mm-hmm.
because there was like defense after defense after defense that I could let go. I would never have known the word surrender at the time. It wouldn't have occurred to me that that's what was happening. But the fact that I was less defensive in so many areas, by the time I sat with Jan, it was like I was ripe,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely ripe. And the difference, I was actually thinking about getting on here and talking with the two of you and sort of like reflecting on just that kind of question. And it's like, it's the word that comes to me the most is it is actually pretty profoundly awesome,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to say, given the amount of trauma I had lived with, it seemed unimaginable that I would experience freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That this form could feel free felt unimaginable. So very specifically, it's like my heart opened. It was
Mm-hmm.
closed. It was very defended. There was a clarity of like, there's a clarity of what really mattered and what didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there before. And there was just this sense of, I want to say there was a sense of ease, which there really was. But I will say to you, right from the get-go, I could, as much in bliss as I felt, as well, actually, really what it was mostly around was love. The
Mm-hmm.
depth of love that I experienced was extraordinary. And it showed up in how I felt about myself. It showed up in how I felt about everybody else in my life. But there was always this thing in the back of my mind. There's more. There's more. So I never had that moment of the feeling of being finished, and yet I was still so like I was still in a state of I could be shocked when there
Hmm.
was more. So paradox.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy paradox.
And was this all around the time of your interaction with Jan Fraser? And how did that come about?
That came about. So let's see. Let me go back. Before we even say about Jan Fraser, there's something I want to say too, that was a little bit more than was in the bio.
Hmm.
Because I was raised Jewish, and in my early 30s, I was introduced to the teachings of Jesus, not through Christianity, but through a man who had done a lot of work and sorting through as much as he could who this being was.
Hmm.
And when I was introduced to him, I I'd say now in retrospect, he was my first teacher.
Mm.
Hmm.
It was the first time that I recognized something I felt I had always known, but could not put into words. Like there is a presence here, there is a love here, there is an increased consciousness here, blows me out of the water, but recognizable, absolutely recognizable. So by the time I got to Jan, however many years later that was, and however many years of therapy I had already done, I could recognize it was so clear the same presence, the same love, the same expanded consciousness. And it happened that a friend gave me her book, When Fear Falls Away, and we had the same publisher.
Hmm.
And so, oh, and actually, more to the point, much more to the point, is that um, I was at a place that I thought it would be good to have. No, actually, that's not true. I didn't know I needed a teacher. I saw an interview, read an interview by Adyashanti, who I had never heard of, even though I lived in San Francisco and he was local. I hadn't heard of him.
Hmm.
And, and when I read him, um, I thought, I think I just met my teacher. And I wasn't even aware that I was looking for a teacher, but he wasn't doing one-on-ones. He was only doing groups. So I
Hmm.
went to several of his satsangs, but when it came time to actually reaching out and spending time with a teacher, I reached out to Jan.
Yeah, beautiful. I also relate to Adya Shanti very much, and consider him one of my primary teachers, even though I've only seen him in person once when he came to New York.
Uh,
But so many videos, so many books. We've also had him on our podcast as well as Jan Fraser.
I know. I listened to both. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And I thought your book, Awakening is Not for the Faint of Heart, was so wonderful. And I love the subtitle, Risk Everything for Love. And
Yeah.
I thought it was beautifully written and even poetic at times. And it was
Mhm.
also the kind of book. Do you ever have this when you start highlighting phrases in the book and then you realize you've highlighted practically the whole book?
I used to have a friend that did that. That I looked at what he highlighted. And I said, you'd save yourself a lot of time if you just highlighted the few words that you don't want to read again.
But
Yeah.
but the thing about that book, and the book is largely about your experience with long COVID, how much time there was that you spent and how much trust that you had you to allow your experience to be as it is and to really feel it directly and deeply. That impressed me a lot.
Me too.
How did you manage that? How did you
Honest,
not give up?
honestly, seriously, as hokey as it sounds, it's because of love. Honestly,
Mhm.
because I don't know how else I could have done it. It was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. So, and it was 3.5 years of not,
Wow.
yeah, not having any idea if it was ever going to go away, and having nothing to remedy it, nothing.
Yeah. Right.
So, it, you know, It's a very funny story because before I got long COVID, I had this conversation with God and I said, you know, I think I did what I came to do. So I'm going to use a Yiddish word, dayenu. It's enough. Like, okay, it's enough. And so then I get long COVID.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
And I tell you, I know this sounds so ridiculous to the regular mind, but it was ultimately such a gift, because it was a clean out of which I could not have known I needed nor had any access to, that I'd say pro long COVID. Um, I everything something so different. I feel so differently inside than I did before, and I was not unhappy. I was happy before.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a sense, and I do think it was because I can't say I was willing. I can say I had the capacity to actually sit with whatever was happening. And there were moments that I felt so forsaken. So it was one of those kind of beautiful bubble bursts, beautiful disillusionments, because I wouldn't have been able to say to you that I had a belief that being awake, something like this would not happen to me. But there it was, like, oh my goodness.
Well, I
Wow.
hear that. I hear that awakening is not for the faint of heart. Uh, you
Amen.
know, and it's interesting to me that Adyashanti is dealing with a lot of physical stuff, and I don't know if you know teacher Jeff Foster. He's had quite a stuff go on with him, and I'm wondering how is it different being awake and having to face that much suffering? Is it different, or is it you just suffer, you just don't think about as much?
I think it is very, very different. And I would say probably the one of the biggest differences, which is going to sound a little nutty, is that it is more intense.
Hmm.
So it's more intense because it's like there's some deep, deep yes to be what is.
Hmm.
And so then the rubber hits the road. Oh, be this,
Yeah.
and be this fully. So it's far more intense. And at the same time, I don't even know what I mean by this because I've said this to many people. I can't imagine having gone through this not awake because how I would have, I don't know how I would have kept my sanity.
Uh-huh.
And yet I will tell you that presence and love was there all the time, even when I wasn't aware, even when I was so deep into the discomfort, so deep into the forlornness.
Hmm.
In retrospect, I could see, oh, actually, I have, even the fact that I was that present with being so miserable was presence.
Yeah, yeah. For our listeners who are going through a hard time, and recently I went through about a 3 or 4 week hard time that seems to have passed due to a relationship situation, and um, and now that I'm on the other side, I can see the benefit.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you would say were the benefit for you, having already been awake, and then this takes you into someplace deeper. How would you describe that?
Yeah. I would describe it by being very aware that I was being taken into some place I had not been before. I
Hmm.
was very aware that I was having a free fall into darkness, that I was being asked to be completely present with,
Hmm.
completely
Mhm.
in the unknown. Um, and remind me your question again. I got so caught in what I was saying that I
Yeah. I'm curious as to what you see as the benefit of going through that much suffering.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So here's the benefit. Did not know that I held an enormous amount of trauma in my gut.
Mm,
I didn't know it. It didn't impact the awakening previous to it. It didn't impact the functioning. And yet, there was a blockage, and it was a significant blockage. And so it was interesting. And again, this is a little bit in retrospect. It wasn't, I didn't get this so much while I was in it, but the fact that long COVID affects different people in different ways.
mhm,
Fatigue seems to be universal, but the different symptoms seem to be pretty individual. Mine was,
mhm,
so it was so interesting to me. It's like gut. This is where it's showing up profoundly. And the gut is such a seat of the will. It is such a seat of that powerful no, which doesn't help anything, you know?
mhm,
And so it opened up awareness to what was going on and it allowed it to dissipate. Now, even after awakening, I lived with a low level anxiety.
mm.
And I felt like it makes sense to me given what my background was like. And so, okay, who's that in the Bible who after the wrestling with the angel has something wrong with his hip? I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, so I thought, okay, here's my limp, you know? And
How's that work? How's that work where you're aware of a loving presence and anxiety at the same time?
uh-huh.
Huh.
And the anxiety was was bodily
Uh-huh.
anxiety. It was not thought anxiety. So I did do a lot of body work in the hopes of that perhaps it was nervous system.
Hmm.
It was nervous system. And I think, if you listen to Aja these days and Jeff Foster too, it's like there is a biology that goes on that
Right.
we are a biology. And so in my biology was this kind of my nervous system was still like I think it was Scott Killaby who said, my body did not get the good news.
Uh-huh.
I would say now, oh my God, my body got the good news.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
My body got the good news. And so I think to me, and again, who knows? The whole thing is so mysterious.
Yeah.
But to me, this whole awakening and illness and consciousness to what was happening and the dissolving of what was no longer that kind of, oh my God, that's
Mhm.
exaggeration. It really wasn't. My anxiety didn't go like that, but during the illness, it felt like that.
Yeah.
And there was room for it to evaporate. It's not a necessity any longer. And it somehow that message got through. Not somehow. I actually think by staying present to every bit of it is part of the reason that it was able to go. And I'll
And
tell you the other thing too that is phenomenal is that we can say we're not in control. We can say it. But to have the felt sense, the direct experience of not being in control and that life steering the wheel and having that feel free and not
Mm.
scary, it's amazing. And it's also what came out of it.
Hmm.
yeah, that is amazing. To have an experience of an illness that you do not know what's going to happen. You do not know whether there ever will be a cure. You do not know if it will end. And so trust must be there and willingness to experience it. And one other thing, which I found a theme running through your book, is about hope. And I remember one time, one of my teachers was an Adyashanti student, Lot Kelly. And in one of his satsangs, he said, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here," because hope is about the future.
Yes.
It sounds like what you instead did was fully experience the present moment. As a matter of fact, I think there's this a line that says, "What is the field beyond hope?" And it is the present moment.
Yes. Yep. And I learned it through this. I mean, again, viscerally, at a deeper, deeper level. It required a building of trust and a letting go of it, not only about being in the present moment, but there's something about hope that our mind has something in mind.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Our mind has something in mind. So it's like my hope was to get better. Well, I don't know that that's going to happen. And as I think I wrote in the book, it took up so much energy, took up a lot of energy. This like maybe this, maybe that, or
Right.
today I'll be better. Oh, tomorrow I'll be better, rather than this is what it's like right now. And it's easy for me to talk about it sort of like casually now, but I want to tell you, day after day after day after day after day of living this very narrow, uncertain, uncomfortable, unusual life. It was hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Sounds like you got a PhD in surrender.
Exactly.
And it's interesting. It seems like that's the in a certain way the ultimate lesson of life, and we don't have classes on that. Nobody's going to take a class, surrender 1A, that's not a popular class. Uh, so what it sounds like you don't really use methods. You just, abandon all hope and be with what is. Is there any advice you have to people in similar situations, or any method or any thing that helped you through that?
Yeah, you're right. I don't have methods or techniques, but actually, you and Brian did a whole show on intuition.
Hmm.
That's been my North Star from a child. And it was my North Star throughout this whole thing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I can't tell you how much I encourage people to get to be still, be still, be still, and listen, because what we need to know, we have,
Hmm.
we have. And if you are ready, willing, able, the message will come through. And so the message all the way through the illness is there's more going on here than you think. There's more going on here that's meeting this eye. Stay
Hmm.
with it. Just stay with it. Stay with it. And I don't want to, I would say. I don't want to. So it's not like any kind of like false um oh whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's a connectedness.
Mhm. I assume that one of the things that you have to accept is not only what's happening, but how you feel about it. I mean,
Exactly.
there are times when you were not happy that this was happening, and that's another thing
Exactly.
to accept.
Absolutely. Another thing to accept and another thing to be willing to express to whoever asked.
Right.
Because again, you know what, I mean, I'm real big on bringing humanity into this spiritual journey.
Hmm.
And because I feel as if it's so easy to get caught in that this is not what spirituality would look like, isn't. So, if my family, if I'm on the Zoom call with my family or a friend is calling in, it's like, I'm miserable. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And it's like It's that place of like, where is authenticity and truth? Where does it really matter? It matters between you and spirit, not between you and another person's perception,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, no pretending.
No pretending, no pretending. And I think that is a huge task for us. At least I'd say for myself, it was a huge task.
Hmm.
Well, especially, I found I used to be in the teaching position, and I had students, and there the force to want to pretend versus being completely honest with what's in the moment was excruciating sometimes. But it was really clear, and I've never really I think some people actually really get used to it and they find that easier over time. I've always found it like I have to force myself to be vulnerable and honest.
Uh-huh. I don't know this, but I wonder if it's a male female thing.
It might be, yeah. I
Wonder.
think.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and because I can't say that I don't take any credit for this, but it
Mhm.
is my signature.
Uh-huh.
It's the easiest thing for me.
Mhm. Well, everybody gets some buy rounds and everybody gets some hard hits and
Exactly.
challenges.
Exactly.
I'm curious. I do something that I'd be interested in your input about. Uh, Sometimes I'll kind of have a conversation with God and I'll say, I will surrender this one thing. Like
Uh-huh.
whether to do this retreat, that's your decision. I'm in charge of the other things, but if you want me to go to the retreat or not, that's yours. And
Yes.
um, and that's been very useful for me because I realize that it's a huge leap to say I surrender my life. Then when you're really not. Uh, what do you think of the partial surrender approach to spiritual growth?
Um, so I think I address this in the book because I talk about the fact that we have a psyche that has so many layers,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a tremendous respect for layers.
Mm,
And here I am, 11 years after the awakening, feeling a surrender in the gut that I didn't even know was needed.
mm-hmm.
So you can say I had partially surrendered. You
Right.
can say that. I would also say that something deep in my bones knows that I have said yes no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have to face the no matter what.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes, and I have great respect and high regard for timing,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm.
Yeah. Most of us have saying that it's easy to say that we're surrendered until the hard stuff comes along. And then, well, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean I'm surrendering my money or my health or my relationship or my life. Uh,
Excuse me, wait a
yeah.
minute. Right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I mean, here's another revelation is that God is in the dark, not
Mm.
in the light.
Say more about that.
So I didn't know that I had this belief beforehand, but the belief was that God lives in the light. The dark is, I don't know how I would have put it, but it's certainly not appealing, not appealing. And so really what it comes down to is like if you lose all your money, are you going to say that's God?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have good health, are you going to say that's God? There's the world is in on fire right now.
Yeah.
And say that's God. So that's what I mean. So it's like again, we go beyond light and dark, beyond duality. So if in fact God is one, as is beyond duality, God includes dark and light. So you lose your money, you lose a relationship. I'm not saying whoopee at all, at
Yeah.
all. But I'm saying there is truth in it, there is reality in it, there's love in it, and there often are lessons in it.
Hmm.
Well, that's the nature of unconditional love. It's not, I will feel love or happiness if something happens. If it's unconditional, then, and I look upon it as pure awareness is unconditional love because, like a clear mirror, it reflects whatever appears. It doesn't decide what to reflect and what not to. It doesn't decide this, this is happening. It is what is, it loves. And sometimes the individual might not love everything, but there's something, the real deeper I, the big I behind the little me is already allowing and loving.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. It's true.
I like to say it is what it is, and if you know what's what, you'll say that's that.
Oh, you always come up with these cool, clever things. I love them. There
Uh,
was another concept in your book, Beth, that I uh, that struck me. You wrote, "It is so easy to misunderstand that this sense of peace and well-being is not stable." And a lot of people that I talk to fall into despair because they think that this is something that all of a sudden they're going to turn a corner and 24/7 it's bliss and there's no more problems in life and everything is cake.
I know. I know. That's actually one of the prime motivators for writing this book.
Ah,
mm,
Really is. Because I came into the scene a little late. I came into non-duality a little late, and they were all the talk was already including humanity. But for the longest time, not just non-duality, I'd say many of the religions have this kind of just what you just said, have this kind of, well, the way it is taught, it is easily to misconceive that once you are awake, all is bliss.
mhm.
You don't feel grief, you don't feel anger, you don't feel annoyed, you're not unhappy about being sick or losing your money or your relationship. All is well. And I feel like it is a unfortunate misleading to a much deeper reality, a much deeper and to me much more profound reality of what is it like when life moves our humanity. What is it like to be integrated? What is it like to be a very real human being in its divinity?
mhm.
Mm.
I don't know how clear I'm being, but I feel I don't know. Maybe you want to question if I'm not clear.
No, it is clear, and you wrote about it in your book because we what you said we often misunderstand that we think that if everything is one, then the human goes away. And that creates a kind of a flatness. But you said at the same time, everything living is a unique instrument moving as this universal presence. And I thought that was a beautiful way of putting it. And you also wrote, not only are we denying ourselves when we pretend we're out of sync with our calling, some might call it our destiny. And so I think that, I mean, just in my experience, and see if this is the same for you, that pure knowingness, some call it God, some call it the ground of being. I just think of it as pure awareness, loves the individual with all of its gifts and faults.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I agree. And a little subtext to that is once you start comparing yourself and think and believing or seeing that your expression or your awakening should mirror your teachers or some other teacher,
Right.
you're out of sync. You're really out of sync because the beauty is it's in you, and it is, you said, you quoted it, the unique expression coming from you that is what is being longed for in the world, longed for.
Yeah, all comparison is a loser on all levels.
Right, exactly.
Um, I don't know if you're familiar with Jeffrey Martin's what he calls the Martin Matrix, but he talks about different types of enlightenment. And one is like the path of humanity, which is kind of what you've been talking about. And then he talks about the path of freedom. And I was talking with a guest that we've had on before, Eva Mueller, who's a wonderful teacher, transmission teacher. And I asked her yesterday, do you ever experience negative emotions? And she said, what do you mean? I said, like, annoyance or grief or anger or sadness or whatever. And she said, no, I don't experience that.
Hmm.
Um, I'm aware of information of that could be interpreted as annoyance, but
Uh-huh.
that doesn't seem to happen anymore. And she said, I said, does it feel good? She said, well, even feeling good is not a description I would use. I like it better than what it was before, but so I think that would be a somewhat different experience than what you're experiencing.
Yes, yes, but it's recognizable to me.
Uh-huh. I think you, me, maybe Brian have had moments like that where you go, oh, yeah, I can see like we asked one lady, do you have negative emotion? And she said, I don't really react to any part of that sentence. There's no doing, there's no I, there's no negative, and there's no emotions.
So I find that all recognizable, but I also find it, those are the kinds of statements that can lead to misconceptions.
Yeah, yeah. And not many people experience that anyways, and may not even be preferred because you kind of lose a humanity in that type of experience.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows?
Hmm.
Yeah, it seems to me that maybe the things that happen that cause anxiety or fear in someone like Eva might be happening just like they are to us, but she doesn't have the interpretive filters in her mind that say
Hmm.
bad or negative or wrong. I mean, I'm guessing that that's what's happening, but it seems to me that that loving loving us, loving whatever arises, and just being with it and dropping the reins and dropping the clutching against it seems to be the way.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mm. And a
Beth,
beautiful.
do you meditate?
I have never meditated.
Uh-huh.
So funny because what Jan neither, and so we laugh about that we're together, that we found each other. But you know what? I know it sounds hokey, but I really mean it. I do feel like living a life of presence is a meditation.
Yeah.
I really do. And I found that doing therapy was how I meditated because it had the same result.
Hmm.
Huh.
A result of knowing thyself, understanding the thoughts, opening the heart, being more still, dropping defenses. So, and I couldn't have done it another way because of the trauma in my background. I needed a human being
Hmm.
to interact with.
As a former psychotherapist, I'm curious as to what was done in therapy that you felt was so helpful.
First of all, to have somebody listen who was genuinely listening,
Hmm.
and I wasn't accustomed to that. Somebody who cared, which I wasn't accustomed to, and somebody who could reflect back to me what my feelings were.
Hmm.
So a mirroring, you know. Um, and I found it very healing, very, very healing. Not sufficient, but very healing.
My experience was very similar with therapy, as not sufficient, but very healing. And my main takeaway was that it was a safe place to have my emotions
Mm.
because I was depressed because I was tamping down, was not allowing them to be. And it helped a great deal. But I also wanted more of a teacher who would talk about the things that later brought me a great deal of joy, like the background in pure awareness and all that kind of non-dual stuff. I found that that was the next needed step to really to really let go of the whole um, fixing game.
Exactly. Exactly. And now I find the combination of the two magical.
Ah,
Magical, because in the context of pure awareness, healing takes on a whole other patina.
yeah.
It's in the service of, not in the
Mm.
service of the ego, it's in the service of the whole, it's in the service of spirit.
And speaking of healing, you also did some healing with Deborah Martin. Is that right? Could you tell us a little bit about that? That's fascinating.
Yeah. So she's an intuitive healer, and it was wild, absolutely wild, just wild. Not something I was accustomed to, but when you have long COVID, you think what might help. It was beautiful. It was absolutely wonderful. She does deal with physical healing, but she also deals with the spirit world. And I think it was the very first thing that began the turnaround for me because it began a healing that went beyond the physical COVID, although it included the COVID, and it. Are you asking, do you want specifics or are you asking me for a general view of it?
I think specifics are probably fine if you're willing.
Okay. Okay. So some of the things that were really remarkable, just remarkable, were at one point God, spirit, awareness, consciousness, whispering in my ear, saying, promise me, promise me. And I can't hear or understand anything beyond promise me. So I don't know, promise me what, but it stays with me. So I sit with it, and the only thing I know for absolutely sure is that I'm not going to let my mind come up with the answer to this. I'm gonna sit until it's like, oh yes, that's right, that's true. I took about a week, and then it was like this moment of, oh, of course, absolutely, of course. And the request was to trust life. And I know that you, Brian, have said how much trust you could feel in my whole process going through long COVID. And yet there was a holdout. There was a holdout of that deeper gut felt trust in life, no matter what, no matter what.
Mm.
So I took it to heart. In fact, I'll say more about this in a minute, but I want to go back to what we said earlier about not feeling, not recognizing thoughts or emotions. When when the original awakening happened, it was all heart based, and I felt myself viscerally experiencing oneness, viscerally being overcome with love.
Mhm.
This experience with long COVID and this kind of request to trust life and the amount of work that went on in my gut left me with a feeling of emptiness. I've never felt quite this. If it feels to me like if you took a glass of water at the top of my head and you poured it, it would just flow right through, that there's nothing that would be blocking it, which was obviously not true before.
Hmm.
So I feel that there is some connection between that, this emptiness that now is alive, is connected to trusting life.
Hmm.
I assume that it means that I'm not grasping something.
There's no resistance.
No, there's no resistance. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was one thing. The second thing, there were several things that went on in that healing. So Deborah says to me, and she says this to me with like a little bit of reluctance in her voice. And she doesn't know me at all. She doesn't know my history. We've never talked. We just come to this healing. And she says something like, your dad's here. And I can hear in her voice like he shouldn't be, or she thinks he shouldn't be, or something about it seems untoward. I don't know what she would have said. Um, And I see, and she says he's young and he's healthy. And I see him and he is approaching me open armed, full of joy, wanting a hug. And what is shocking to me is that without any any reservation whatsoever, I walk straight into him and give him a hug. Now, what makes this so like, what's the big deal? Is that our relationship was extremely toxic with sexual abuse on his part and terror and hatred on my part. So for us to connect like this so unabashedly was like, had me pay attention.
Hmm.
And the feeling I had is that we were meeting spirit to spirit. And it's like something, do I have evidence for this? I do not. Can I tell you it's a felt sense that everything in me felt like it was like this was spirit to spirit, and the human experience was not in the picture or was not what was of prominence or where it was at the moment, you know?
Hmm.
So it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it sounds pretty amazing.
It sounds like it reminds me of the meaning of namaste, which is the divinity within me meets the divinity within you.
How lovely. How
Yeah.
lovely. That's
Something
a
I'm curious about, Beth, is, when in therapy you're focusing on feelings and getting into one's personal feelings. Awakening, at least for me, is in a certain way, I feel more impersonal. Like awareness is impersonal. The love that comes from it is impersonal. How do those two things drive?
Mhm. I agree with you, first of all, wholeheartedly. But all of us know we have blocks, we have
Mhm.
knots, we have places that are not ready to surrender. So to me, that's where the fact that I've had 30 years as a psychologist can come in handy because in the service of clearing and cleaning for the higher good,
Mhm.
go to these places. If we're going to go to these places for you to feel better, it's not going to ultimately really do the trick. It's my experience.
So when you're diving into feelings and seeing those knots, how does that relate to the bigger picture?
Mhm. So let me think about a couple of examples that I just had this week, and I could probably speak to you from there. Um, the bigger picture is we are truth, right? We are truth.
Hmm.
The feeling of I'm not worth a lot. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Keeps the expression, keeps us tight. Doesn't keep us. It does it's not true. It's not true.
Hmm.
So go to that place and to explore it in the feeling that the felt sense that I often get is that when we are with each other and there is genuine acceptance, genuine love, genuine non-judgment, the person who is being approached like that feels safe and free, and the truth of itself, the spirit that's inside, the love that's inside, will show up.
Hmm.
But it might take what talking through and feeling some of the blocks
Hmm.
sorted out.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and a different relationship with feelings than most people have.
Right.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of safety. I was a traumatized child as well, and having to find safe people to talk about that with and let it out seems to create a flow where energy was maybe stuck before.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And is that not just magical?
Yeah, yeah. I had a recent experience where, because I was beat up a fair amount as a child, anger is very hard for me, and somebody did something that really made me very angry, and I was able to express it to a lot of people, and I was surprised at, wow, I feel like 100% better.
Exactly.
It was
Exactly.
very interesting. Yeah,
I relate
hmm,
deeply. Exactly. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share that we haven't touched upon?
You know, one of the things, something you said earlier sparked this. I want to say one little thing about teachers and not having a teacher and not having a teacher. Okay.
Hmm.
And like what you just said reminded me of it as well. Like you can't, somebody else who has not had the trauma you had does not have to express their anger. And
Mm,
you can be left thinking, I'm not supposed to express my anger. When in fact, your experience tells you something very different. Okay.
hmm,
So this is how I see things as far as teachers are concerned. I think we are essential, absolutely essential. I adore the metaphor of the burning log, and you put a log next to it that's not burning, and it will catch fire.
mm, hmm,
So I needed Jan 100%. I needed to know her love
hmm,
100%.
hmm,
And when that ignited it in me, that's when the whole thing could really begin.
hmm,
I mean, like, okay. So when you said earlier about it takes a lot of safety to go towards these feelings, and we both went for safe people,
hmm,
long COVID, love did that. Love held me in a safe place the entire time.
hmm. So in that case, your teacher didn't have a body, but it was very real to you.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Uh,
Well, I feel somewhat complete. How about you, Brian?
it's beautiful, and I'm so grateful to you, Beth, and for your willingness to share so deeply about this. I think I can just sense our listeners benefiting from it.
Mm, I hope so. I love that. I love that. I have loved being with both of you. This is such a treat.
Uh-huh.
Oh, goody,
It
goody. I'm so glad to hear it, and I've loved it too. Thank
As
really,
someone who wasn't familiar with your work, I really appreciated your depth and honesty and how I could relate, both, being therapists and how the mixture of therapy and awakening awareness can be complementary.
right?
Hmm.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank you
And
both.
people can get hold of you by going to bmillerphd.com. Is that the best way?
Yeah, yes. I can also give you my email address if that's easier. bmillerphd@gmail.com.
Okay. Great
I
honor. Thank you for the story. I'm glad that you're no longer dealing with the long COVID the way you were.
knock wood.
And knock on wood on all of us, that we
Exactly.
get lessons that we can handle.
Amen. And
Yeah.
that's why I said, okay, I'm done. So I don't mind. I don't mind if there's no more lessons. I don't mind.
Yeah, right, right. I'm open to that.
I'm
That
open.
I could will surrender to.
I'm open.
Lovely.
You guys are fabulous.
Oh, you too.
I'm so glad you're in the world, and I'm glad to have met you and spent some time with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Likewise.
It is
Likewise.
our
And
honor.
thank you to all our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/awareness explorers. We give you a bunch of extra stuff. And we're just grateful for people like you, Beth. I'm grateful for you, Brian. And I'm grateful for our listeners. And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to Awareness Explorers. To learn more, you can check out our website at awarenessexplorers.com. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. We'd love it if you would post a review. And please share our link on Facebook and with family and friends, because knowing yourself as awareness is the greatest gift you can give yourself or someone you love.